This is why Putin invaded Ukraine. And I'm going to make this clear and easy and give you an example that you can't argue with. So please reserve your comments until after the video. 1 full year before the war in Ukraine began, Zelensky signed a decree commanding Ukraine to take back Crimea. That's public record. Then Ukraine moved 60 to 80,000 troops into the east and into the south. You think Russia missed that? Meanwhile, NATO was running massive war games from the Black Sea all the way up to the Baltics. And the U.S. spy planes were buzzing the border nonstop. You think Russia didn't notice that? In November 21, just 3 months before the invasion, the U.S. and Ukraine signed a strategic partnership. And in that agreement, they spelled out 2 things: Ukraine joining NATO and taking back Crimea, remembering that Russia already had Crimea. A month later, January 22, NATO invited Ukraine to help write Agenda 2030. That's NATO's strategic roadmap. And remember, Ukraine isn't in NATO. Why was none of this ever reported? Because it would have destroyed the victim narrative Zelensky and the globalists were selling you. Now, let me put this in perspective. What if Mexico moved 80,000 troops to the Texas border? What would Washington do? What if Russian warplanes started buzzing along the Rio Grande to support Mexico? You think America would just sit back? Or if the old Warsaw Pact invited Mexico in and even let them help write its strategy paper for 2030 with the stated goal of taking back Texas, do you think Washington would react? And if that wasn't enough, imagine Russian and Mexican intelligence launched an operation. Let's call it Operation Tequila, setting up 12 secret spy bases along the Mexican border with Texas. You think the U.S. would just shrug? Because that's exactly what was happening on Russia's border. The New York Times itself admitted that over the past 8 years, the CIA and MI6 helped build 12 secret spy bases in Ukraine. They trained Ukrainian intelligence, set up forward operations bases, even taught agents how to blend in. They called it Operation Goldfish. You think that wouldn't get Russia's attention? Well, all this is what Russia saw happening on its border, and they acted like America would have, and how America acted during the Cuban Missile Crisis, by the way. These aren't internet rumors. These are facts. And they prove how deep the West was invested in this war before it even started. So when people tell you Putin just woke up in February 22 and decided to invade, just ask yourself, how far back are you willing to go to find the real reasons? Because February isn't the start. It's just a date that fits the narrative. Nothing about this began on February 22. But the press and the leaders who want to sell you lies, well, they start the clock at the exact moment that makes their story look good. And if you dare to point out the full timeline, well, like I do, you get called a Putin supporter. No, this is not taking Putin's side. It just means you're awake. And all of this is why Putin invaded Ukraine. But in the end, here's the frightening cold truth. If Russia takes Ukraine, it's gone. If the West controls it, it's gone. The country has